There's a quiet power. Most women don't realize they hold the power to walk away from love that doesn't choose them. And I'm not talking about walking away to punish him. I'm not talking about walking away while secretly hoping he'll chase you back. I'm talking about the final soul-shifting decision to no longer beg for crumbs when you know you deserve the whole table. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The more you chase someone's love, the further they run. The more you try to prove your worth to someone who can't see it, the more invisible you become. But what if I told you that the single most magnetic move you can make is to quietly remove yourself from spaces where you're not fully chosen? Most women get trapped in the cycle of convincing, explaining, overgiving, and waiting. They think love is about fighting to be seen. But a high-value woman understands, love that needs to be begged for is not love. It's self-betrayal in disguise. Walking away isn't weakness. It's the ultimate act of self-respect. It's how you remind yourself and him that you are the prize, not a placeholder. And when you walk away without bitterness, without revenge, without performing strength, that's when everything shifts. That's when he realizes your absence weighs more than your presence ever begged for. In this video, I'm going to show you how walking away in the right way is what makes you unforgettable. Not because you manipulated him to miss you, but because you finally chose yourself. Let's begin. There's something you need to hear, not gently, but urgently. Chasing a man lowers your value in his eyes and in your own. You don't lose him when you stop chasing, you lose yourself when you keep doing it. The moment you chase, the balance shifts. Without saying a word, you show him you believe he's the prize and you're just hoping to be chosen. And men can feel that energy. It's not about what you say, it's about what you prioritize. Every time you double text, every time you wait by your phone, every time you abandon your plans just to be available, you silently tell him, I need you more than you need me. And trust me, nothing makes him pull away faster than that. Here's what no one tells you. Men do not respect what chases them. Attraction fades when effort feels one-sided. It's a law of human psychology. People value what they work for. When you chase, you rob him of that investment. You take away the journey that makes love meaningful for him. And maybe you think, but if I try harder, he'll see my worth. No, the harder you chase, the less he values you. The more you pursue, the less he feels the need to pursue you. The more you reach, the less he feels your absence. And when your absence isn't felt, your presence stops mattering. Chasing doesn't just cost you his respect, it drains your self-respect. Slowly, you begin to forget that you are the prize. You start to believe his attention is something you must earn, when in reality, your attention should have been earned from the beginning. High-value women don't chase, not because they're playing hard to get, but because they are hard to get. They are emotionally full, without needing to be chosen. They don't beg to be seen. They walk where they are celebrated, not where they are tolerated. When a man shows hesitation, they don't solve it. They step back and let him feel what distance actually means. The power is not in chasing. The power is in realizing that what you chase runs away, but what you attract naturally stays. The moment you stop chasing is the moment he starts wondering why you're not. And when you stop because you genuinely know your worth, not to manipulate him, you become unforgettable. This is how you shift the game. This is how you reclaim your power. You don't chase, you choose. And trust me, the man who truly sees your value will never make you feel like you have to run after him. The psychology of a high-value woman is not about pretending. It's not about playing cold or acting like you don't care. It's about genuinely living in a mindset where you know deeply that you are whole with or without him. A high-value woman moves differently because her self-worth is not tied to who chooses her. She doesn't wake up every morning wondering if she's enough. She knows she is. And that certainly changes everything. Here's the difference. Low-value thinking says, how can I make him love me? High-value thinking says, is he showing up in a way that aligns with what I deserve? It's a complete shift from trying to earn love to simply allowing love to reveal itself. A high-value woman doesn't chase validation because she already validates herself. She doesn't over-explain. She doesn't over-prove. She doesn't overstay in spaces where she's undervalued. When a man pulls away, she doesn't panic. She pauses. She watches. She lets him reveal who he is without forcing an outcome. That's because she's not outcome dependent. She knows her worth isn't determined by whether he stays or leaves. She doesn't see rejection as a threat. She sees it as redirection. If he walks away, it's not proof that she's unlovable. It's proof that he's not capable of loving her at the level she requires. And she respects that. She doesn't fight it, she lets it go. The psychology of a high-value woman is built on emotional self-control. She doesn't beg, she doesn't plead, she doesn't argue to convince. Instead, she knows her silence speaks louder. When something feels off, she doesn't chase clarity, she creates distance. When she's not prioritized, she doesn't protest. She positions herself elsewhere. And this is what makes her unforgettable. She's not emotionally reckless. She's emotionally reserved. Not in a closed-off way, but in a powerful way. She knows that not everyone should have access to her heart, her time, or her energy. The high-value woman's greatest strength is this: her ability to walk away from what doesn't align without losing her sense of self. She doesn't break down when someone disappoints her. She doesn't crumble when she's not chosen. She adjusts, she pivots, and she continues to move in love. But with higher standards, what makes her magnetic is not that she's perfect. It's that she's selective. She doesn't audition for love. She doesn't perform to be picked. She is the one who picks. And here's what men feel in her presence. They feel that she's not afraid to lose them. That's the energy that changes the game. It creates respect. It sparks pursuit. It builds deep attraction. Because at the core of the high-value woman's psychology is this one truth: if you can't meet me where I stand, I will never lower myself to chase you. I will simply rise and move on. Begging doesn't always look obvious. Sometimes it's hidden in the small moments, when you text first to fix the silence, when you wait by your phone for his response, when you accept less than you deserve because you're afraid he might leave. Begging isn't just about words. It's about energy. It's about the silent message you send when you keep showing up for someone who barely shows up for you. And the more you do it, the more you drift away from yourself. That's the part no one talks about. You think you're fighting for love, but you're actually abandoning you. You're shrinking. You're overreaching. You're proving. You're convincing. But the more you chase him, the more you lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, you never win him. So how do you stop? You stop by realizing begging is never the path to love. It's the fastest route to self-destruction. It's not about going cold. It's about waking up. When a man pulls away, your instinct will scream, fix it, chase him, do something. That's where you pause. That's where you catch yourself. That's where you lean back instead of leaning in. You give the silence room to speak. You let him feel the weight of what happens when you stop filling in all the gaps. And maybe that silence will scare him. Maybe it won't. But the point isn't him, it's you. The goal isn't to make him chase. The goal is to remember you were never supposed to be the one running in the first place. When you stop begging, you stop betraying yourself. You start honoring the part of you that knows you don't have to earn love with effort that's not returned. You shift from proving your worth to protecting your worth. And the minute you make that shift, something inside you unlocks. You stop needing his response to feel valuable. You stop needing his attention to feel chosen. You stop waiting. You stop explaining. You stop showing up in places where you're not seen. You start moving with quiet power. The power that says, if you can't meet me where I am, I will not lower myself to be kept. Stopping the begging doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about you more. It means you no longer fear the loss of someone who is okay with losing you. It means you finally trust that real love doesn't make you feel desperate to keep it. It stays. It shows up. It makes you feel safe to stop chasing. And when you stop begging, something shifts. Not just in him, in you. You become the woman who no longer settles for half love. You become the woman whose silence has weight. You become the woman who doesn't have to fight to be chosen, because she already chose herself. When a woman feels ignored by the man she cares about, her first instinct is to fix it, to close the gap, to do something, anything, to get his attention back. And that's where so many women make painful mistakes that actually push him further away. The first mistake, chasing his silence. When a man pulls back, many women panic. They send the extra text. They ask, are you okay? They double down on effort to close the emotional distance. But here's the brutal truth. When you chase his silence, you reward his withdrawal. You teach him that even when he disappears, you'll still be there. You teach him that your love will always overcompensate for his lack of effort. And the more you chase, the more he runs. The second mistake, taking the blame. When he pulls away, you start assuming it's because of something you did. Maybe you weren't enough. Maybe you should have said something differently. Maybe if you were just more patient, he would have stayed close. But often his distance has nothing to do with you. Sometimes it's his emotional unavailability. Sometimes it's his lack of readiness. Sometimes he's just taking you for granted. because he knows you'll stick around. When you blame yourself, you make his inconsistency your responsibility. And that's how you slowly destroy your own self-worth. The third mistake, overcompensating. Women who feel ignored tend to overgive. You cook more, you text more, you offer more of yourself, hoping he'll finally notice you again. But overcompensating doesn't build connection. It builds resentment. You begin to feel invisible even when you're giving everything. And he gets used to receiving your effort without having to earn it. The fourth mistake, creating drama to feel seen. Sometimes when the silence becomes too painful, you create conflict just to get a reaction. You start an argument. You bring up past issues. You stir anything to make him engage with you. But forced drama doesn't bring real connection. It brings temporary attention. And the moment the argument ends, the silence returns. You don't want him to respond out of obligation or guilt. You want him to choose to show up. There's a difference. The fifth mistake, begging for clarity. When women feel ignored, they often start chasing answers. Where do we stand? Why are you acting different? Can we talk? But sometimes the answer is already in his behavior. His silence is a message. His absence is an answer. His emotional distance is a decision. Begging for words when his actions are already loud only delays your healing. Sixth mistake, trying to prove your worth. When you feel ignored, you might subconsciously start working to become more worthy of his attention. You adjust yourself to fit what you think he wants. You suppress your needs to keep him comfortable. You start performing instead of living. But here's the truth. The right man will never need you to become less of yourself to make him stay. When you feel ignored, the hardest thing to do is nothing. To lean back, to sit with the silence, to not fill the gap. But that's exactly where your power is. When you don't when you don't beg, when you don't overgive, when you simply observe. Because when you stop making these mistakes, you finally give him the space to realize what it feels like to lose your effort. And most importantly, you give yourself the chance to remember that you never needed to fight for the love that was meant for you in the first place. Respect and desire. These are not things you can force. They're not things you can beg for. They're not even things you can earn by overgiving. They have to be triggered. And the most powerful part, they're triggered when you stop trying so hard to be one. A man naturally respects a woman who respects herself. He desires a woman who holds her own space, who doesn't shrink to keep him, who doesn't rearrange her life to stay in his orbit. If you want to trigger his respect, you have to show him you don't need him to complete you. You enjoy him, but you don't cling. You value him, but you don't chase. And you live your life fully with or without him. It's in your energy. It's in the way you hold boundaries with softness, but certainty. When you say no without guilt. When you express what you need without fear. When you walk away calmly when you're not being met with the effort you deserve. That's what a man respects. Not noise, not drama, not desperation. Silence, standards, self-focus. That's what makes him look at you differently. The mistake most women make is thinking they have to do more to be respected. They think if they just love him harder, if they just forgive him more, if they just prove how loyal they are, he will finally see their worth. But it doesn't work like that. A man doesn't respect what he can walk all over. He respects what he can't manipulate. He respects what holds steady, whether he's near or far. Desire comes from distance, from curiosity, from the feeling that he doesn't fully have you. Not because you're playing games, but because you genuinely have a life that doesn't revolve around him. When you're not always available, when you're not always the first to reach out, when you're not always waiting, you become the woman who's in motion. And men are drawn to women in motion. Women with purpose. Women who don't sit in waiting rooms for his attention. It's not about punishing him. It's about understanding what actually creates lasting desire. It's not about hot and cold behavior. It's about consistency in your standard. It's about living in such alignment with your own value that he either meets you there or you gracefully exit. You don't trigger his respect and desire by showing him you'll never leave. You trigger it by showing him you're never afraid to. You don't have to say it. You just have to be it. In the way you respond, in the way you pull back when necessary, in the way you prioritize yourself, even when your heart wants to cling. That's the energy that captivates him. That's the energy that stays with him. Not because you forced it, but because you became unforgettable by simply refusing to beg for what should have been offered freely. Reclaiming your power doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes It's that quiet, internal shift where you wake up one day and realize you're done begging, you're done chasing, you're done waiting to be chosen. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it changes everything. That's the shift he can't resist. The one where you stop moving toward him and start moving back toward yourself. The one where your energy says, you don't get access to me by default anymore. See, most women think power is in what they say, in how they argue, in how they demand. But real power doesn't need to raise its voice. Real power is when you can walk away without explaining. It's when you can love someone deeply, but still leave when you're not met. It's when you realize you don't have to make him see your value. Your absence will speak for you. This shift happens when you stop asking, what else can I do to keep him? And you start asking, is this even what I want anymore? That's when you change the story. That's when you stop performing for love. That's when you step into the energy of a woman who's not afraid to lose a man, who's not afraid to lose her. And here's the secret. Men feel that. They feel when you've emotionally detached, not out of spite, but out of clarity. When your silence isn't a punishment, it's peace. When your distance isn't a strategy, it's self-respect. That's the moment he starts thinking, wait, did I just lose her? That's when he feels your absence more than he ever appreciated your presence. And that's the difference. Before, you were always available. You were always the one reaching, fixing, waiting. Now, you've gone quiet. You've reclaimed your space. You've become beautifully unavailable to the version of him that took you for granted. But let's be clear, you don't make this shift to get a reaction from him. You make this shift to come home to yourself. You stop begging, not because you want to spark his chase, but because you've outgrown the version of you that needed to beg. You realize your power isn't in making someone love you. It's in loving yourself enough to stop asking for what should have been freely given. When you reclaim your power, your energy changes. You walk differently. You speak differently. You respond differently. You don't tolerate emotional scraps. You don't need to slam doors to prove you're done. You simply stop showing up in rooms where you're not valued. You stop over-explaining. You stop checking his phone. You stop chasing answers. You trust that the things meant for you won't need to be forced. And the things that require constant chasing are things you've already outgrown. And here's the beauty. When you step into this quiet power, it's magnetic. It draws people in. It shifts the entire dynamic. He starts noticing. He starts wondering. He starts realizing. But by the time he fully sees you, you're no longer waiting to be seen. That's the silent shift he can't resist. Not because you manipulated him, not because you played games, but because you finally remembered who you are, and you moved accordingly. That's where your real power lives, in the silence, in the standards, in the way you choose you, even when it hurts. Becoming the woman he never wants to lose doesn't happen because you fight harder, try more, or mold yourself to fit someone else's needs. It's not about proving your worth, wearing yourself out with effort, or holding your breath just to keep his attention. It's something quieter, something deeper. It's the slow, steady process of choosing yourself, again and again, until you no longer chase places where you're not fully seen. The woman he never wants to lose isn't the loudest in the room. She's not the one demanding to be chosen. She's the one who knows her worth is steady, whether someone notices it or not. She's the woman who doesn't panic when someone pulls away, because her peace has never been dependent on another person's presence. She walks through life whole, not because she's perfect, but because she's full. She has built a world she genuinely loves. She fills her life with friendships, passions, dreams, and quiet moments that don't revolve around who stays or who leaves. You see, most people think that to be unforgettable, you have to leave a mark on someone else. But the women who are truly unforgettable are the ones who leave no doubt about their own self-respect. They don't have to prove themselves through endless giving. They don't have to beg to be valued. They move with a calm assurance that says, if you can't meet me with consistency, I won't force you to. But I also won't stay in spaces that make me question myself. There's something magnetic about a woman who doesn't need to be chased, yet somehow always draws people in. Not because she's playing games, not because she's unavailable on purpose, but because she genuinely loves her own life enough that anyone who steps into it knows they're entering a sacred space, one that requires care, effort, and presence. When you become this woman, you're not waiting for a man to fill the gaps in your happiness. You're not waiting for him to make you feel worthy. You've already given yourself those things. You become the woman who no longer worries about being chosen, because you've already made the most important choice. You chose yourself. And that's when everything shifts. That's when the right man begins to feel the weight of who you are. Not because you begged him to stay, but because you've become the kind of woman whose absence is impossible to ignore. You're not an option. You're a life he doesn't want to live without. When he feels that you can walk away, calmly, lovingly, without punishment, that's when he realizes what's at stake. Not because you made him afraid, but because you made yourself whole. The woman he never wants to lose isn't the one who tries to hold him tight. She's the one who holds herself with such quiet strength that he never wants to let go. So as you step forward, let this be your reminder. You don't have to fight to be kept. You don't have to beg to be seen. You don't have to break yourself into smaller pieces just to fit into someone else's life. You only have to keep choosing you over and over until the right person shows up, not to complete you, but to stand beside you. That's the woman he never wants to lose. And that's the woman you'll never lose again.